Right, this is just a little pre-roll cold opening type thing. Yes, this is another Stranger Things review, this time of the episode called
Sorcerer.
Yes, I'm probably going to have changed my t-shirt by the time we get into the body of the review. And C, in case this looks ropey, there's a reason. I've got some new editing software. Ho ho! Right, if you're back after seeing my earlier reviews, welcome, thank you very much for coming back, and hello, and welcome to review number 4. If you're new to my channel, my name is Paul, I'm also called Knick-Knack. I do the daily teaser quiz, I talk about movies and TV shows I'm watching as well, and this is one of those reviews. I've been watching Series 5 of Stranger Things over the past few weeks. This is my review of episode 4, Sorcerer. It's what I saw and what I thought, and I thought I'd share it with you. Part 1, the summary. The summary. Chapter 4, Sorcerer, opens with a face of Joyce Byers, Winona Ryder, as she tries to calm Derek Turnbow, Jake Connolly, down. Derek has been kidnapped and is struggling to get out of the ropes that are holding him tied to a barn wall, all whilst Joyce is trying to calm him down, tell him what's happening, and reassuring that the people surrounding him aren't monsters, and that Mr. Watsy isn't what he says he is. However, when Derek is untied, he still has to be restrained as he immediately tries to escape and eventually gets to the hayloft. It's only when Joyce defends the gang, Derek, herself, Will, Robin, Erica, No Schnapp, Maya Hawke, and Priya Ferguson, from a Demogorgon using an axe, one that's eventually run over by Steve, Joe Keery, and his team, that Derek comes to realise just one thing. The slobbering monster Joyce has just axed was sent by Mr. What's-It, and that he might be better off joining their team. So what did I make of Sorcerer, of this second episode? I have to admit, I had some interference on my internet connection whilst watching this episode. Interference that made the episode something of a chore to watch. An interference that was caused by God knows what. So the first 20 minutes or so were difficult to keep up with and difficult to watch, and may need me to sit down with the episode again at some point. It's something that I feel will affect this review, so I'm asking you to factor this in when either watching this video or reading the written version on Knick-Knack's Old Peculiar. Next, I said that the Turnbow Trap was the third episode, and it was one that reminded me of a heist movie. There's an explanation of the plan, which then gets started and then goes slowly but surely but steadily wrong. And I mention that because I feel Sorcerer is another such episode. It's another heist. It's a heist that opens with the recovery from the Turnbow Trap. It's one that reintroduces the team, one that comes with a much-needed explanation from Max of what she's been doing and where she and Holly, Nell Fisher, are currently hiding. It's a heist that sees Derek sneaking into the military base on the Upside Down to rescue other children targeted by Vecna, only to be foiled by a leaking pipe. It's a heist that, if anything, is even more dangerous than the Turnbow Trap ever was. Paul, I hear you ask, is a repeated formula a good thing or a bad thing? In this case, I think it's a good thing. The show's producers have found a formula, a structure for the Turnbow Trap and for Sorcerer, and gets a pair of episodes out that are, by turns, funny, dramatic, tense, and have twists in the tale. Yes, the Turbo Trap and Sorcerer had twists in their respective tales. The trap finishes with a great big reveal and shows us Holly being rescued by Max, Sadie Sink. It's something Sorcerer repeats in its own way, as one of the last scenes we see is Eleven and Hop, Millie Bobby Brown and David Harbour, sneaking into the Hawkins lab and finding Carly, 8, from Series 2, trapped at the lab centre and imprisoned in a machine that's doing who knows what with her living human brain. The episodes so far have shown us parts of the impenetrable wall, while Dustin, Gator Matarazzo, has correctly guessed is circular, surrounds the Upside Down, and is centred on the lab. I am guessing that wall has something to do with Carly's present, but I don't know for sure what as yet. I'm guessing I'll find out in the next few episodes. There are other things mixed into Sorcerer's Cauldron. I mentioned how, towards the end of the episode, Eleven and Hop find Carly. That is not the climax of the story, just the end of their part of the story. Earlier in the episode, when the team are sneaking some kidnapped children out of the military base, Robin and Will are hanging back as Robin wants to talk to Will. After all, the pair are the only two gay inhabitants of Hawkins, and that this being small town 80s America, they're both aware there's only so much understanding they'll get from their sympathetic but decidedly straight friends. So, Robin wants Will to know she's sympathetic, she's helpful, and she's an ally, and she gives him some very good advice about how she's dealt with fear and how he can too. The speech is something that resonates with Will for the rest of the episode, and during the episode's climax, during Will's confrontation with 5 Demogorgons, is something we see echoing through Will's mind. Alongside Will's memories of childhood and of one friend in particular. Both Robin's speech and the episode's climax are beautifully done, and the ending makes for a rousing series ending, or at least a rousing ending for this season's first half. Hang on, I can hear you from here. The season's first half full. Yes, I have watched these first 4 episodes sometime after their original release in November of 2025, of last year. They got released on the 26th of November, with chapters 5, 6, and 7 being released on Christmas Day, the 25th of December, and chapter 8 being released on New Year's Eve, the 31st of December of last year. It's Netflix's version of what gets called a mid-season hiatus, where a channel will broadcast the first half of a series, leaves a gap for a few weeks, and then resumes the season, and it's usually done to boost advertising revenue. A channel can charge more for advertising space or advertising time when a show resumes after a gap. And as I recall, it was something the BBC tried for Matt Smith's latter 2 series of Doctor Who, and it was something that was tried and something that got some backlash. Doctor Who UK fans saw it as pandering to the American market. And I have to admit, I was one of those fans who objected. Again, I felt it pandered to the US market, but I also felt it interrupted the flow of the series. The net result of that was that I'm not best pleased with the idea of a mid-season hiatus. I didn't like Netflix doing it with season 4 of Stranger Things, and I didn't like them doing it with season 5. It is still to this day not something I like, but at least it's something I could remedy in the way that I am, by watching 1 episode a week, sometime after the original broadcast, original streaming. Picky? Yes, but it's something I feel strongly about. We've talked about the release of this series, haven't we? So it's now possibly a good time to mention the episode's length. Sorcerer is, as you've probably guessed by now, the mid-season climax, and as a result, it's some 90 minutes or so in terms of duration. It's that length so that it can include a big dramatic ending, the fight with the Demogorgons, that meant the viewers would be tempted back to watch the last 4 a few weeks later. Yes, I had buffering issues watching this this episode, and yes, the length is normally something that would give me hives. I have trouble paying attention. But the pacing of Sorcerer was very well done, very good. And outside of the buffering problem, the episode, despite the length, had me glued to my chair. About the title of Sorcerer. Sorcerer. Unsurprisingly, the title comes, as you've probably guessed, from Dungeons and Dragons. It's a type of magic user, one distinct from D&D wizards and one whose powers are innate rather than drawn from a spellbook. I think I've spotted a flaw with the naming. As far as I can tell, the Sorcerer character class is drawn from the third edition of Dungeons and Dragons, the third edition of the game, which wasn't published until 2000, some 13 years after this series is set. I'd not found out if the class featured in the second edition of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, the earlier version, but that would present issues as well. A second edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons was published in 1989, 2 years after this episode's 1987 setting. I had also wondered if the show's writer had lifted the idea from Terry Pratchett's Sorcery. The central character is a sorcerer, Sourcerer, is again a powerful wizard who is a source of magical energy. Again, the writers would have made a mistake if they had, because Sir Terry's fifth book was published in 1988, the year after the series is set, and the year before the second edition of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons was released. My point is that I don't know that I have a point, beyond telling you I've spotted a mistake, and I wanted you to share it. About the title of Sorcerer. Sorcerer. Unsurprisingly, the title comes, as you've probably guessed, from Dungeons and Dragons. It's a type of magic user, one distinct from D&D wizards and one whose powers are innate rather than drawn from a spellbook. I think I've spotted a flaw with the naming. As far as I can tell, the Sorcerer character class is drawn from the third edition of Dungeons and Dragons, the third edition of the game, which wasn't published until 2000, some 13 years after this series is set. I'd not found out if the class featured in the second edition of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, the earlier version, but that would present issues as well. A second edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons was published in 1989, 2 years after this episode's 1987 setting. I had also wondered if the show's writer had lifted the idea from Terry Pratchett's Sorcery. The central character is a sorcerer, Sourcerer, is again a powerful wizard who is a source of magical energy. Again, the writers would have made a mistake if they had, because Sir Terry's fifth book was published in 1988, the year after the series is set, and the year before the second edition of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons was released. My point is that I don't know that I have a point, beyond telling you I've spotted a mistake, and I wanted you to share it. So, what did I make of Sorcerer? An episode that has a mistake that seemed obvious to me, and one could possibly argue is too long. I loved it. I really did. Yes, I had issues watching Sorcerer. Yes, I think there's an error in the very title. And yes, there are arguments to be made about the damn thing's length. But it's a fun episode whose problematic length is overcome by beautiful pacing, and whose moment of high drama are balanced nicely with a light comedy, and whose mistake really doesn't matter. Frankly, Sorcerer is a very, very, very well-made episode. Right, that's where I'm going to leave things for now. But I will thank you for watching this video or for reading the original scripted version over on Knickknacks of Peculiar. and I will ask you to do the usual thing of hitting like, pressing subscribe if need be. Before I go, there's one last few things. I'm going to be watching the fifth episode of Stranger Things 5, Shock Dog, hopefully by Saturday, the 7th of March. I'll have my written video reviews up by the following Monday at the very latest. Feel free to look around my YouTube channel, Mr. Cuddy2977, and please have a look at my blog, Knickknacks Old Peculiar. And if you're feeling generous, there's a tip jar in the corner of this video. Please feel free to donate. Every penny helps out. Thank you for watching. Have a good day, and be seeing you.